Listen closely. The world is not blind. It sees you exactly how you've trained it to see you. If you carry yourself like prey, you'll be hunted. If you act like a beggar, you'll be fed scraps. If you treat yourself as a king, the world kneels because power is theater, and you are both the actor and the stage. Machiavelli understood this. Men are not loved. They are calculated. Your value is not what you believe it is. It's what you enforce. The truth bites. No one respects the man who disrespects himself. No one follows the man who can't command his own reflection. You are teaching the world every second by the discipline you show, by the boundaries you set, by the punishment you allow, by the reward you withhold. They mirror it back to you perfectly, cold, exact. So hear me. If you tolerate weakness in yourself, the world will devour you. If you sharpen yourself into steel, the world will bleed when it touches you. That is the dark wisdom. The world treats you exactly how you treat yourself. Now, let's carve open Machiavelli's discovery. Comment, I am my own ruler. If you're ready to begin. First maxims. First law of self-treatment. A man who cannot rule himself will never rule others. That is Machiavelli's first law of self-treatment. The way you walk into a room, the way you hold your silence, the way you stand when eyes are on you, all of it instructs the world on how to handle you. If your shoulders slump, if your voice trembles, if you betray hesitation, you are teaching others to dismiss you. Weakness is a signal, and predators never ignore it. Every glance, every gesture, every pause is read like scripture. The world mirrors what you broadcast. That's why your posture is not vanity. Your discipline is not private. They are weapons, or they are chains. Think of a king. He doesn't beg for respect. He radiates it, not because of what he says, but because of what he refuses to tolerate in himself. You must become ruthless with your own softness. You must burn your excuses before anyone else burns you with them. The law is simple. If you don't command yourself, the world will command you, and it will not be kind. This is why Machiavelli warned rulers to cultivate appearances of strength, even when strength faltered inside, because perception is power. If you act as if you are unworthy, you will be treated as such. If you act as though you are inevitable, you become so. Self-treatment is the rehearsal for how the world will treat you. The private becomes public. The inner voice becomes the outer echo. So you must ask yourself, how do I carry myself when no one is watching? That answer determines how the world bends when it does watch. Train yourself like a sovereign. Correct yourself like a tyrant. Reward yourself like a king. That is how you become untouchable. Comment, I command myself, therefore I command the world. If you feel the truth. Sinking in. Second maxim, respect is a mirror, not a gift. Respect is not something people hand to you out of kindness. Respect is a mirror, cold, merciless, and exact. It reflects only what you project. If you treat yourself like disposable trash, the world will recycle you. If you walk like a servant, you'll be treated as one. This is dark psychology. Human beings are predators, disguised as friends, allies, neighbors. They test your limits not because they hate you, but because nature wired them to. Weakness excites exploitation. Strength commands restraint. Every time you allow yourself to be mocked, overlooked, or ignored, you've given silent permission for it to continue. And once permission is granted, the chain around your neck tightens. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote that men are more faithful to fear than to love. Why? Because love is voluntary, but fear respects boundaries. If you don't respect yourself, why would they respect you? They won't. They'll press further, they'll test harder, and they'll laugh while doing it. Respect begins in your own reflection. If you don't look at yourself with a sense of command, no one else will. The crowd does not invent your worth. It simply mirrors the worth you display. So here's the brutal truth. Stop expecting others to give you the respect you haven't demanded from yourself. People are not generous with respect. They are accountants coldly measuring the signals you broadcast. They see how you speak to yourself in private, how you feed your weaknesses, how you excuse your failures. Then they copy it without mercy. Respect is not granted. It is reflected. Train yourself to radiate respect from within, not with empty arrogance, but with ruthless self-command. Speak like your words have weight. Walk like the ground was built to carry you. Hold silence like it belongs to you. The world is your mirror, and the image it reflects is entirely your doing. Comment, I forge my own. Respect if you understand. Third maxim, the currency of pain and reward. Every empire runs on currency, not coins, not gold, but on the balance between pain and reward. Your life is no different. How you punish yourself and how you reward yourself sets the standard for how the world dares to treat you. If you let yourself drift into laziness without consequence, others will treat you as unreliable. If you celebrate mediocrity in yourself, others will use you as a stepping stone. But if you are merciless toward your own weakness, if you punish failure with correction, if you demand excellence from yourself, then the world learns quickly. Here stands a man who cannot be toyed with. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved. If you can, need not be both." Apply that to yourself first. Fear your own laziness more than you crave your comfort. Fear your own excuses more than you long for rest. Reward yourself not for survival, but for conquest. This is dark psychology. You are conditioning the world through the way you condition yourself. You are teaching them your value by the currency you enforce within your own kingdom. Ask yourself, when you fail, do you forgive yourself too easily? Then you've shown the world you can be forgiven without consequence. When you succeed, do you downplay it? Then you've shown the world your victories are cheap. You must become a ruthless banker of your own soul. Tax your flaws. Invest in your strengths. Pay yourself in discipline. Reward yourself only when the victory is worthy. That is how kings rise and how men become untouchable. Because here's the Machiavellian law. The world is always watching. It sees how you deal with yourself in silence, and then it mirrors it in public. Pain and reward are the only languages men respect. Use them wisely on yourself, or they will be used against you. Comment, I'm the banker of my soul, if you understand the currency of power. Fourth maxim, the mask you wear. Every man wears a mask. The question is whether you forged it with intention or let the world slap one on your face. Machiavelli knew this truth. Rulers are never what they appear. Appearances are weapons. To the masses, perception is reality. If you project hesitation, you are weak. If you project authority, you are strong. Even if your hands shake in private, this is the mask, not a lie, a strategy. Because men respect what they see, not what you whisper to yourself in the dark. Dark psychology is simple. People respond to symbols, not substance. A uniform commands obedience even when the man beneath it is trembling. A crown bends knees even if it's made of tin. The mask you wear in public trains the world to respond to you. If you wear the mask of a victim, predators circle. If you wear the mask of command, the same predators retreat. The world doesn't care about your inner truth. It reacts to the projection you broadcast. This is why you must become deliberate in your image. How do you speak? How do you carry silence? How do you present your body, your words, your eyes? You must refine them like steel to the world. Your mask is you. If you hide in weakness, your life will be written in weakness. If you cloak yourself in strength, even your enemies will hesitate. Machiavelli warned that rulers must learn to be both fox and lion, cunning in deception, fierce in command. That's your task with the mask. Build one that commands, one that protects, one that cannot be pierced by the eyes of those who want to exploit you. Never forget, your mask isn't meant to hide you. It's meant to rule the room before you even speak. And when you master it, you won't just wear a mask. You will become the symbol others can't ignore. Comment, "My mask is my crown," if you understand. Fifth maxim, power in boundaries. Power bleeds without boundaries. A man who does not draw lines around himself invites the world to trample him. Boundaries are not polite suggestions. They are walls of steel. They are declarations of worth. Every time you say yes when you should have said no, you cut your own throat and show the world how to do it for you. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be feared enough that none would dare cross him lightly. That begins with you. If you do not fear disappointing yourself, if you let yourself betray your own limits, why would anyone else hesitate to betray you? Boundaries are the visible edge of self-respect. The weak man fears setting them because he thinks it will cost him affection. The strong man enforces them because he knows it guarantees respect. And here lies the dark psychology. People secretly despise the man who gives everything. He becomes cheap, disposable, a servant to all. But they fear and respect the man who holds his ground, who denies freely, who guards his time, his body, his mind as treasures. Your boundaries tell the world your price. If you tolerate insult, your price is nothing. If you let others waste your time is worthless. If you enforce your limits with quiet ruthlessness, your value becomes untouchable. Machiavelli would say, it is better to offend a few than to invite the disrespect of many. A boundary crossed without consequence is weakness to broadcast on every channel, and weakness always attracts predators. So train yourself to defend your lines. Guard your schedule, guard your mind, guard your body. Do not explain, do not apologize. Those who test your boundaries are testing your value. Make them pay. The world only respects what is defended. The man without boundaries is a slave. The man with boundaries is a king. Comment, "My boundaries are my fortress," if you understand the law of power. Sixth maxim, self-betrayal breeds betrayal. The most dangerous enemy is not outside, it's inside. The moment you betray yourself, the world receives its permission slip to betray you. Machiavelli warned that a ruler who cannot govern himself cannot govern others. Self-betrayal is the crack in the armor that spreads until the whole suit shatters. And here's the dark psychology. Once you lie to yourself, you become predictable. You become weak. You become disposable. Because if you can deceive yourself into tolerating mediocrity, everyone else knows they can deceive you too. Think of the promises you've broken to yourself, the discipline you abandoned, the standards you lowered. Every time you allowed it, you taught the world how to treat you. They see you excuse yourself, so they excuse disrespect. They see you let yourself slide, so they slide past your boundaries. They see you tolerate weakness in the mirror, so they treat you like a weak man. Your betrayal of self is a public signal, even if you think it's private, because weakness leaks. People can smell it, they can sense it, and they exploit it. Machiavelli would tell you, men are not loyal out of goodness, but out of necessity. If you betray yourself, you create no necessity for them to be loyal to you. Why should they? You've already proven. You can't even be loyal to yourself. Betrayal begins within. That is why it spreads outward like a plague. You must become ruthless in ending this pattern. Stop excusing your failures. Stop lying to yourself about who you are and what you tolerate. If you fall short, punish it. If you rise, honor it. Become the judge of your own empire before anyone else dares to sit in that throne. Because if you cannot stand trial before your own conscience, you will be sentenced by the world instead. Self-betrayal is the seed of ruin. Self-low is the seed of power. Guard your word to yourself like it's the most sacred oath you'll ever make, because it is. And once the world sees that you never betray yourself, it learns a dark and undeniable truth. Betraying you is suicide. Comment, I will never betray myself if you've decided to end the disease of self-betrayal. 7th maxim, the discipline of kings. Discipline is not a virtue. It is a weapon. It is the chain that binds chaos, the sword that cuts weakness from the flesh. Machiavelli knew that a ruler without discipline was nothing more than a clown in a crown. A king first conquers himself, then he conquers others. If you cannot master your impulses, your hungers, your laziness, then you are no king. You are a slave, and the world will treat you as such. You already know this truth, even if you avoid it. Look at the undisciplined man. He eats without control. He speaks without thought. He spends without restraint. Does anyone respect him? No, he becomes a warning, not a model. His life screams that he cannot command himself. And if you cannot command yourself, you cannot command anyone. The crowd does not follow the undisciplined. They mock him. They exploit him. They use him. Discipline, however, is terrifying. It is the mark of kings. When you rise before the sun, when you master your body, when you silence your own excuses, the world sees something it cannot easily handle. A man who is his own ruler. That is the man people hesitate to betray. That is the man others feel compelled to follow because discipline is magnetic. It radiates authority without words. It whispers, "This man is untouchable." Machiavelli said that fortune favors the prepared. Discipline is preparation embodied. It sharpens you into inevitability. Without it, you are prey. With it, you are predator. The disciplined man is feared not because he is cruel, but because he is unstoppable. His presence tells others, "I do not spare myself, so I will not spare you." The warning alone bends the world into submission. But here's the coldest truth. Discipline is not comfort. It is cruelty. It is the art of denying yourself softness so that the world learns to respect your hardness. You must treat your weakness with merciless brutality. You must deny yourself the poison of ease. For every time you choose discipline, you forge armor. For every time you betray it, you carve cracks in that armor. Discipline is the throne you build inside. Sit on it and the world kneels. Abandon it and the world laughs. The choice is always yours. The consequences are not. Comment, "My discipline is my throne," if you choose to sit as king over yourself. 8th maxim, cruelty versus compassion. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Most men misread that line. They think it applies only to how you rule others. They are wrong. The first subject you ever rule is yourself. The question is, are you feared by your own weakness, or do you coddle it with misplaced compassion? This is where most men fall. They are gentle with their flaws, soft with their excuses, merciful with their mediocrity. And what happens? The world copies it. If you are compassionate with the part of you that drags you down, others will be cruel in exploiting that softness. Cruelty toward yourself does not mean hatred. It means you refuse to tolerate weakness without consequence. It means when you fail, you cut deep, you correct without delay. You impose punishment that reshapes your habits. Compassion, in turn, belongs only to the parts of you that fight, the parts that rise, the parts that bleed, but still move forward. That is the duality of power. Be merciless with your rot, but merciful with your growth. Crush what holds you back and nurture what makes you formidable. Dark psychology teaches us that people read signals faster than words. If they see you coddle yourself, they know you'll coddle their disrespect. If they see you punish yourself for weakness, they know you'll punish them too. This is why you must be visibly ruthless with yourself. Every act of cruelty you direct inward builds fear outward. Every act of compassion you direct inward builds loyalty outward. The balance between the two is not morality, it is strategy. A king does not pity his own failures. He executes them, but when his strengths rise, he rewards them like treasures. That's what you must do. When you slip, cut yourself coldly. When you rise, honor it fiercely. The world will watch. They will learn. They will bend because people respect what is sharpened by cruelty and steadied by compassion. So, look in the mirror. Do you pity the man who failed yesterday? Or do you execute him and build a new one? Do you reward the man who fought? Or do you ignore his effort? That decision writes the script. The world will read to treat you. Machiavelli knew cruelty without compassion makes a tyrant. Compassion without cruelty makes a fool. Balance both and you become untouchable. Remember, your cruelty is not for others. It is for your weakness. Your compassion is not indulgence. It is fuel for your strength. Together they forge a man who cannot be ignored. Comment: I sharpen myself with cruelty. I strengthen myself with compassion. If you understand the dual edge of power. Ninth maxim: how power collects around self-respect. Power is not given. It is not handed down. It is not begged for. Power collects. It gathers. It clusters around the man who respects himself so ruthlessly that the world has no choice but to orbit him. Machiavelli understood this with chilling clarity. Men obey not out of goodwill, but out of necessity. They are drawn not to weakness, not to please, but to gravity. And gravity comes from one source. Self-respect forged so hard that it bends everything around it. Look closely at the men who command the room without saying a word. What do they have? Wealth, sometimes. Status, perhaps. But underneath it all, it's something far simpler and far more lethal. It's self-respect. It's the way they treat themselves that sets the standard for how others treat them. Their posture tells you they bow to no one. Their silence tells you they will not tolerate disrespect. Their gaze tells you that your words better have weight, or you'll be dismissed as irrelevant. That is self-respect made visible, and it is magnetic. Here's the dark psychology. People are always searching for hierarchy. They are wired to follow, wired to bend, wired to orbit, but they will never circle around a man who disrespects himself. Why? Because if you don't value yourself, you become a black hole that consumes respect rather than generating it. The crowd senses it instantly. They don't consciously think it, but they feel it. This man is not serious. This man is not worthy. And so they move on. They look for someone else to follow, someone else to fear, someone else to admire. But when you hold yourself with ruthless command, when you set boundaries like walls, when you enforce discipline like law, people sense something different. They sense gravity. They sense a weight they cannot ignore. They begin to orbit. They come closer, even when they don't. Fully understand why this is how power collects. It's not about chasing, it's about pulling. And you pull by becoming untouchable in your respect for yourself. Machiavelli wrote that men admire those who act with decisiveness, even if their actions are cruel. Why? Because decisiveness signals strength, and strength signals survival. This is why you must treat your own word to yourself as law. If you promise yourself discipline and deliver it, the world sees consistency. If you betray yourself, the world sees inconsistency, and it withdraws. Power cannot collect around inconsistency. It cannot gather around chaos. It gathers around order, around control, around the man who respects himself enough to live by the laws he imposes on his own flesh. Think of your life as a throne room. If you let disrespect roam inside unchecked, disrespect from your own mind, your own habits, your own excuses, then you have already abdicated. You've left the throne empty, and the world senses it. But if you sit firmly on that throne, if you rule over your impulses with an iron fist, if you treat yourself like the sovereign of your own kingdom, then the throne radiates power. People come to it, they recognize it, they cannot deny it. That's how power collects, not through forceful grabbing, but through immovable gravity. Understand this. Power is not loud. Power is not desperate. Power does not chase. Power waits, and it pulls. The man who disrespects himself has to chase approval, chase affection, chase validation. But the man who respects himself becomes the sun, and like the planets, others revolve around him. Not because he asks, not because he pleads, but because gravity doesn't negotiate. Gravity doesn't explain itself. It just pulls. The cold reality is that people are opportunists. They align with power because it benefits them. They avoid weakness because it costs them. That's why self-respect is non-negotiable. If you don't build it, you will forever chase scraps. If you do build it, scraps will chase you. This is the Machiavellian inversion. The less you chase, the more you attract. The less you beg, the more you command. Because begging is weakness, and weakness repels. Command is strength, and strength attracts. So, what does self-respect look like in practice? It's the way you speak to yourself when no one hears. Do you correct yourself when you slip, or do you excuse it? It's the way you treat your body. Do you carve it into strength, or do you let it rot in indulgence? It's the way you use your time. Do you guard it as a king guards treasure, or do you waste it like a fool scattering coins in the street? Every choice signals your respect or your lack of it, and the world reads those signals with brutal clarity. This is why Machiavelli insisted that rulers must cultivate appearances of order, strength, and decisiveness even when chaos rages behind the scenes. Because appearances shape perception, and perception shapes reality. If you project order, the world treats you as ordered. If you project strength, the world treats you as strong. If you project respect for yourself, the world reflects that respect back onto you. And if you fail, if you disrespect yourself in public or private, the world punishes you. That's not cruelty, that's law. You must decide what kind of gravity you will be. Will you repel or will you attract? Will you scatter your power by disrespecting yourself? Or will you forge it by treating yourself like a sovereign? Because once you choose self-respect, power begins to gather. Slowly at first, invisibly at times, but then unmistakably people notice. They test less, they bend more, they follow, willingly, not because you begged, but because you became undeniable. That is how power collects, not in noise, not in chaos, but in silence, in posture, in consistency, in ruthless self-respect. Be the man who never betrays himself and watch as the world organizes itself around you. Comment, my gravity is my power. If you understand how self-respect makes the world orbit you. 10th maxim, becoming untouchable. There comes a point where all the laws converge. Discipline, boundaries, cruelty and compassion, masks and mirrors, pain and reward, all of it builds toward one end, the final shape of power becoming untouchable. Untouchable does not mean you cannot be harmed. It means the harm does not matter. It means every strike against you rebounds harder against the one who struck. It means your presence is armored not by luck, not by fortune, but by the ruthless empire you have built within yourself. Machiavelli understood that power is never truly secure. Enemies circle, fortune shifts, allies betray. But there is one fortress no enemy can storm, the fortress of self. When you respect yourself with unyielding cruelty, when you discipline yourself with relentless force, when you enforce your boundaries with silent ruthlessness, you make yourself into stone. The world can throw waves against you, but waves break on rock. That is untouchability, not immunity, but indestructibility through self-command. Think of the men who walk through fire and come out colder than before. The ones who take betrayal and turn it into steel. The ones who suffer loss but never lose their presence. What separates them? Not luck, not blessing. It is this they trained themselves to. Be untouchable long before the world tested them. They punished weakness before others could exploit it. They built boundaries before anyone could cross them. They wore masks that projected strength even when storms raged inside. They ruled themselves as tyrants, and so the world learned to obey. Untouchability is built on this paradox. When you no longer need respect, you receive it. When you no longer chase power, it collects. When you no longer beg for loyalty, people become loyal. Why? Because you have demonstrated that you are complete without them, and completeness is magnetic. In a world of fractured, begging men, the one who is whole becomes a god among mortals. But here, this warning: untouchable is not soft. It is not easy. It is forged in pain. You will lose people. You will offend them. You will become feared before you are loved. And you must embrace this. Machiavelli said, "Men will betray love, but fear binds them." If you cultivate self-respect so mercilessly that others feel fear in disrespecting you, you have crossed the threshold. You have become more than just a man. You have become a force. Dark psychology confirms it. Humans are predators of opportunity. They do not pity weakness. They exploit it. But when weakness is absent, when all they see is iron, they yield. They follow. They attach themselves to you because their instincts tell them it is safer to orbit you than to oppose you. Untouchability is not invisibility. It is invincibility of presence, and it is the law that says, "Strike me and you only. Strike yourself." So what is the formula? How do you cross from man to untouchable? You begin where we began. Respect yourself ruthlessly. Punish your weaknesses. Reward your strengths. Guard your boundaries with fire. Wear masks that project strength, not softness. Be cruel to your rot, compassionate to your growth. Build discipline until it sits on a throne inside you. Betray yourself no more, and others will never dare betray you again. Every principle we have carved has been a brick in this fortress. Now it is complete. But let me be clear, becoming untouchable is not about arrogance. It is not about posturing. It is about becoming inevitable. When you rise each day with command, when your life is shaped by law instead of whim, when you treat yourself as the sovereign of your own kingdom, the world has no choice but to treat you the same. They can test, they can resist, but in the end, they bend because they have no other option. Gravity cannot be argued with. Steel cannot be ignored. This is why untouchable men are rare. Most men want comfort. They want softness. They want to be liked. They think power comes from approval. It doesn't. Power comes from necessity. People must feel that respecting you is necessary, that following you is safer than opposing you, that betraying you is suicide, and only then does power gather like an army around you. Only then do you become untouchable. Machiavelli warned that fortune will test every ruler. Storms come for all men, but the untouchable man is different. He has already prepared. His fortress is built from the inside out. So when the storm comes, he does not beg. He does not panic. He does not collapse. He endures. He adapts. He bends the storm until it serves him. That is the ultimate mark, when even misfortune bends in your direction because you are too unyielding to break. And so we arrive at the end of this journey. The world will always treat you how you treat yourself. This is not philosophy. It is law. If you treat yourself like prey, the world will devour you. If you treat yourself like a king, the world will kneel. If you betray yourself, the world will betray you. If you command yourself, the world will obey. That is the Machiavellian truth. That is the dark wisdom. That is how you become untouchable. Now choose. Continue living like a servant, begging for scraps of respect, or rise as sovereign, forcing the world to orbit your gravity. The choice is brutal, but it is yours. Become untouchable or remain forgotten. Comment, "I am untouchable," if you are ready to claim the throne inside you. And remember, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because men who master themselves master the world, and you are about to become one of them.